Hello, disc golfers. Welcome to episode 5 of Caddy Chat with Jake and Josh. I'm your host, Jacob Arvidsson, joined as usual by Josh Wood. We're excited to bring you another episode of this show that we hope is taking off, and we hope that you're enjoying. So what do we have on the show today, Josh?
Today we'll do a little recap from the Carolina Clash as well as the Chain Hawk Open. We're going to have our tip of the month for our special segment this week. And then got a couple of announcements to make. And then Tourney Talk, we'll be talking about marketing and sponsorship a little more again and a couple of the next steps there.
Are you excited for the episode today?
I'm super excited. I'm sorry.
I'm really excited for this special announcement in the middle, but we got to be patient.
Yeah.
We got to get there first. So, first off, recapping this past weekend, we had 2 A tiers. We had the makeup event in Carolina, making up for the hurricane postponed A tier.
Yeah.
Couple big names there. What went down in Charlotte, Josh?
Well, your prediction came true. Kale LaVisca won by a pretty good margin, actually. You were right. He was carving lines through the woods with his slow, smooth style, and took first place, cleared Paul Ulibarri by 6 strokes, and Johansson was tied with him as well.
And if you guys didn't follow the tournament, Kale was actually up by 8 heading into the final round, so he was just on cruise control mode. Dominant in the woods, as predicted by yours truly.
Yeah, you got that one. But Paul was in second, so.
You came close.
Just about there.
All right, so the more exciting tournament on the weekend was the Chain Hawk Open down in Florida.
Yes.
What happened there?
The 11th annual Chain Hawk Open in Gainesville, Florida.
Gainesville, home of the Florida Gators and home of Garrett Gurthie.
And he felt at home this weekend. He was playing great. From the very first round. I think he had the hot round on the second round, and put on a really good show against AJ Carey, and Jared Stoll was in there, our hometown boy, Michigander.
Good to see him shooting well.
Good to see Michigander there. Yep. He was actually tied for the lead going into round 2 with Garrett. But yeah, Garrett pulled away, ended up winning by 4 strokes. AJ Carey battled all the way to the end and had a couple of unfortunate bogeys there at the turn in that final round, and Garrett never gave him back.
And most good players won't give those back.
Yes.
So it's tough to beat a tour star like Double G after chalking up a couple of bogeys. So I'm sure AJ's disappointed with that. But at the end of the day, to finish right behind Double G by 2 strokes? 4 strokes.
Yep.
But in second place.
Yep.
I mean, that's nothing to sneeze about. That's impressive.
Not at all. It was a great run. Yeah, a great tournament for him. So hopefully we'll see more of that moving into 23 from AJ.
Absolutely. We know Deanne's crushing it, and AJ's been making a statement as well. So
that's right.
We'll see.
Power couple coming through.
For sure. All right. Tip of the month this month. Josh, what's our tip?
We're going to talk about caddy books. Keeping a caddy book. And so when we were discussing this earlier, you were talking about the benefits of having the caddy book with you at the tournament and during your warm-up rounds.
Yeah, the course-specific caddy book or event-specific caddy book.
So what are some of the advantages of that, and why would you do that? And, well, maybe some people don't know. What is a caddy book?
So for those of you that don't know, a caddy book is just a little pamphlet. More recently, with COVID and stuff, it's become digitalized much more often. But it's just a little pamphlet explaining the rules of the event. Generally, it's a lot of hole-specific OB stuff. Just little nuances for each hole that you won't be able to fit on a T sign. You know, generally you look at a T sign, you see OB sidewalk, or you see OB pond or sand trap, and that's marked out on the course map there on the T sign. But the caddy book is where you're going to find, oh, this little area of bushes over here is actually OB. Will I get there? Probably not, but that's OB. If you come all the way over here, that's also out of bounds. Where's the drop zone on this hole? A lot of the times, tournament-specific rules will have a drop zone, whereas your normal course round, the tee side's not going to note where the drop zone is, just because the tournament is being played much more specific than a normal casual round would be. So stuff like drop zones is important.
Yeah.
And then stuff like how to play a drop zone or how to play a specific mandatory situation. A lot of the times the caddy book is going to tell you exactly how that goes, whereas your common disc golf knowledge might not, or the common knowledge of that course might not. So just specific stuff that can keep you out of rules trouble and keep you from getting penalty stroked at the end of a round by a tournament director. Yeah. That's the importance of a caddy book. I find it very important at bigger events, especially.
Sure. And because you were saying there's sometimes you'll go to an event and they will change up a lot of the OBs and Mandos just to make the course a little more difficult for a tournament setting.
Yep.
And so again, those things, you could play that course every day, play every league there, and not know that they've changed this line for this tournament. So,
or just move the basket to a new spot or something like that.
Or added the drop zone, like you said, or maybe it's one of those re-tee twice and then go to the drop zone, etc. All those little nuances.
And that brings up an example that I had a year and a half or so ago. I went down to Arizona and played in the Maricopa Open. And there was a hole on the first course we played at the, I forget what the course was called, but at the recreation park. And there's a hole where it's an island green. You're throwing from one spot, and there's, I believe, 3 drop zones as you progress up. The island's like 250 feet away, but you're kind of throwing down a tunnel. All OB the whole time, obviously, because it's an island green. But the wind out there just nasty. So the chances of hitting the tunnel and getting it to finish on this green actually aren't that high. And I saw probably 60 to 70% of people miss it on the tee shot at a minimum, including myself. So there was drop zone 1, there was drop zone 2, drop zone 3, and if you still couldn't hit it from drop zone 3, then you continued from drop zone 3 until you got to the island. So just weird stuff. I didn't know until I looked at my caddy book after missing it, because I went up saying, 250-foot hole, I'm going to hit this. I don't really care what the rules are. I don't have to worry about them, but sure enough, I did. And I slowly progressed from drop zone to drop zone and took a 7.
Got to know each one intimately.
Yeah. So that's a real life example that just popped into my head. I'm glad it popped in there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So you kind of went a different direction with this keep a caddy book for the tip of the month, Josh.
Yeah. One of the things that I've done in the past and that I've suggested other people do is to keep a caddy book for yourself. And it's more of, I suppose, in a sense, it's more of a journal of your rounds.
Yeah.
Just remembering, okay, every time I'm playing hole 1 here, I've been throwing my Raptor. Or every time I've been playing this hole, I've been throwing a Destroyer. I'm going to mix it up this time and see what result I get and keep track, so that as you're progressing, you're getting to know your own course, you're getting to know your own discs, and you have some sort of record of what did I do last time when I threw this, and what was the wind doing maybe. I mean, you can get as detailed or as vague as you want, but it can help just to track your own. As I'm mentioning this and as I'm talking about this and we're talking about caddy books, it just dawned on me, it's more of your own disc golf journal, disc golf diary of how you've been throwing. Disc golf diary, available now at Caddy Chat. We should have a website before I say that. Would have been a great spot for that, though. But yeah, no, it's good to keep track of your own shots and your own throws, because sometimes you get done with a round and you think about. I think about there's a couple of holes at Winstrom where every time I get there and I'm trying to think what I've done in the past and what might work in this wind, because when you're just playing round after round, by the time you get to that same shot, it might be a week later. You might not remember.
Yeah.
What was the wind doing?
And
that
a lot
day?
of time, when, like you said, like with Winstrom, a course you play all the time, you have already, when you step up to the tee pad, you kind of already know what you're doing. And if you were playing a casual round and you threw that shot and it didn't work, so you tried something else and that suddenly worked, the next time you step up a week later, you're probably just going to fall back into the same rhythm that you usually do, and you're going to throw your normal shot.
Yeah,
you're going to forget that one success moment that you had with a different disc or a different shot.
Yep.
And yeah, taking notes about it and writing it down is going to help spark exactly what you did do differently and why it worked.
And back to the tournament prep, because I mean, the whole purpose of a caddy book from its origins was a caddy on a PGA event, keeping track of, the golfers' warm-up rounds, keeping track of various distances. Okay, here's my landing zone. I know from here I've got 385 to, the next landing zone or whatever. And so that's also a good idea when you're warming up and doing your tournament prep, doing your practice rounds before a tournament, is to bring that caddy book with you and make notes as you go of what did I throw that worked out. I took 3 shots here, and this is what each one of these discs did. Here's where I really want to land on this hole. Let's not forget that, and this is how I got there. Right? That's the spirit of a caddy book.
Absolutely. Yeah, so a lot of the times it gets pushed to the wayside. You say, oh, it's only 18 holes. I have it up here. I'm good to go. I just need to execute my shot. But there's a lot of nuances within a caddy book for an event-specific situation and for your own personal growth situation and memory on how to execute certain shots and on certain holes in certain situations. That makes a caddy book very, very helpful and very useful, and we both strongly recommend it.
Yes, 2 thumbs up.
So tip of the month, keep a caddy book.
Hey, that was nice.
That was fun. All right, so we're going to do a little random segment here this week. We're going to talk about lost discs and kind of, it's kind of an unwritten rule maybe for some people, but it's not universal by any means.
No, I find it different wherever I go.
So when you...
And different with different age groups.
Yeah, so when you, Josh, when you're playing a casual round out your home course and you throw a bad shot into a bush and you go to pick up your disc out of that bush and lo and behold, there's another disc in that same bush and you pull it out and there's a name on it. There's no number.
Okay.
There's no PDGA number. There's just a name. Jake A. That's all it says. You don't know any Jake A's. What are you doing with that disc?
The first thing I do is text Regal and see if it's his.
Josh Regal, you just got a shout out.
No, I just have a name and I don't know who it is. The first thing, I might go to that course's Facebook page and see if anybody's reported one missing. I might ask around and see if I know if I know anybody who knows him. I'll go to a certain amount of lengths to get the disc back to the owner. So
in general, I just give you one specific situation, but is there ever a time when you're not going to return a disc to somebody that you found?
No. I suppose if it's completely unmarked and nobody's posting about it and nobody's asking about it, then it'll probably end up in my trunk and I'll forget about it.
Fair enough.
But no, I'm always going to do what I can to get the disc back to the person.
Okay. Well, the reason we were bringing this up is because a lot of people have a lot of different ideas on the topic.
They do. And a lot of those people have my discs.
Yeah. So if you have Josh Wood's disc, send it back. He misses it.
It probably has a smiley on it.
And he would like it back. And if it's his red Roadrunner from Leprechaun Hollows that's been missing for a year now, and I'd found it, for that one. He will give you a large sum of money for it. All right. That's your Roadrunner.
At least a sum of money. Yeah.
That's your SOS for your Roadrunner.
But yeah, I always try to give discs back. I always try to get them back to their owner. That's my number one priority if I find a disc.
So there's a lot of people that have differing opinions. I mean,
they do.
When you find somebody's disc on a course and you're involved in the local scene and you know a lot of people and you know a lot of people who know a lot of people and you're connected to the clubs, you're connected to the courses, you're there all the time, and you find someone's disc with their name and their phone number on it, the chances of you somehow having a connection to that person are quite high.
Very high.
And the fact that there's a phone number on it, you should probably call it. I think
so.
That's kind of a universal thing.
It is around here, at least. I don't know what it's like around the country.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, I think with a lot of the younger people, that's becoming less common.
Yeah. I think
kids these days.
Kids these days. Some people's kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, they'll find a disc and they'll keep it. It looks cool. They want a new disc.
Mm-hmm.
The part where it gets a little bit gray area for me is we were talking about before the show, Josh, bodies of water. I think that's a big one for me. If I throw my disc over, I'm thinking of our local course, Paw Paw.
That was the first
hole
that came to mind.
Hole 9 is what, 410 feet over a pond for
420, I think.
Okay, 420, but a pump over a pond for almost the entire length of the fairway. If you're going straight at the basket, there's a layup zone on the right, but a lot of discs end up in that pond if you try and show off some power and get all the way to the green from the tee.
Or on the very next hole coming back over the pond.
Yes, that too.
It's only a 240-foot hole, but still get a lot of discs in the pond.
That too. But the pond is not...
It's full of discs.
It's not clean. It's nasty. True. It's muddy. Gets up to 5 feet deep in the middle.
And it's cold.
When the water's... Yeah, and it's not warm. For me, that's a specific example. If I throw a disc in there like now, right? If I went out there and played this morning and I threw a disc in there, I'm not going and getting it. I'm considering that disc lost, and I expect to never see it again, to be completely honest with you. If somehow somebody went in there a year from now or 6 months from now, not a year from now, it would be cold again. But went in there 6 months from now in the summer and pulled my disc out.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And pulled my disc out and saw my number and called me and gave it back, I would be ecstatic and I'd probably pay the person. But to me, that disc is gone. So if someone takes the time to go in there and swim after one of their discs and they find mine, or they just go in there because they know there's a lot of plastic in that pond and they're looking for some free discs, in my opinion, they have every right to those discs. I let mine go in there. I threw a bad shot and I chalked it up to lost. Yeah. So I gave up. To me, that's almost like a donation.
So yeah, I think there's a couple of different questions here then. There's two different questions. Number one, what am I going to do if I find a disc? Number two, what do I expect anybody else to do if they find my disc?
Yep.
If I lose a disc. Because number one, I'm not the kind of guy who's probably going to jump into a pond for anybody's disc ever. And so I'm never going to be put in the position where I find discs in a pond and what do I do with them? And there's some bodies of water where I might think, okay, yeah, if you're going through all that effort to get those discs, I mean, I guess they're yours. But then there's smaller bodies of water on private property where I think if somebody were to go in and take all the discs and then take them home and sell them, I would feel kind of upset.
Yeah.
I think that's different. However, like if one of my discs goes into the water, as soon as it breaks the surface of the water, in my mind, I don't own that disc anymore.
Yeah.
I'd never expect it back.
Yep.
And I cry for a minute and then I collect myself and I move on. But even if I'm losing it in the woods, and I'll look for a long time if I lose a disc until my card mates make me move on, probably, because I love my discs. But as soon as I give up on it, it's done. It's gone. It's not my disc anymore, and I'm thinking of how I can replace it.
Yep.
But that's just me. And so I think too, like, okay, if Jake found one of my discs and it had my number on it and you didn't call me, I would be hurt. I would expect you to call me. But a lot of the younger guys and maybe newer players who, number one, they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of discs. Again, it's already not mine in my head. Yeah. I don't care if they take it.
So if you saw one of those new players show up on the course a year after you considered this disc lost, either under a bunch of leaves or in a pond, whatever the case may be, and you see that disc fly past you on the course, are you a little hurt that they took your discs that clearly had your name and number on it?
Is it my Roadrunner?
It's your Roadrunner.
I'm a little hurt.
Okay.
By that one, but no. And again, especially if I know it's their first year playing and that we're probably new when they found it, and I had already considered the disc gone. Like I'm glad somebody else is enjoying the disc. I'm glad maybe it helped him on his journey through disc golf.
The one situation where you and I talked before the show where if somebody took it and didn't give it back or didn't turn it in would be during a tournament round.
Oh yeah,
if you find it, like, this is just a public service announcement. If you find a disc during a tournament, whether you think it was lost during that tournament or not, turn that disc in.
Yeah, turn it into the tournament director.
I mean, tournament rules state you only have 2 minutes once that timer starts to find your disc before it's deemed lost. So if the whole card is looking in the wrong spot and they don't find the disc, they have to keep playing. That player's pissed. They take a penalty stroke, and they're moving on to the next hole because the tournament says they have to. If your card finds it a half hour later or in the next round or whatever the case may be, and you find that disc and you keep it,
bad karma.
Oh,
man.
Bad.
I don't believe in karma.
Just don't do that.
Yeah.
Please don't do that.
No, but just be a good person.
Yeah. That one's self-explanatory. All right, that's our lost disc thoughts for the day. We want to hear your thoughts. What's your personal policy on lost discs? Toss it in the comments. We would love to know. I mean, just between us two, we had a little bit of differing opinions. So
yeah. Could I have a sidebar?
Yeah.
Not a sidebar, but a side note.
Side note.
One thing that I have seen at other courses that I love is a lost discs box. They have that at Hammond Hill. I've seen it at other courses. I feel like more courses should have those. That's a great way to get it back to their owner without having to go through the text back and forth, without having to meet somebody up somewhere.
Yep.
So I petition for more of those.
More
drop boxes for
more
lost
discs.
and
found drop boxes. You heard it here first.
Let's do it.
All right. Special announcement time.
Oh, baby.
So the three big clubs in our area in West Michigan along the lakeshore, Shore Acres, Windstrom, and Leprechaun Hollows, which is us hosting the podcast. So we teamed up for the first time ever, and we're going to run a 2-day event at all 3 courses. And we wanted to specially announce this on this podcast because it means a lot to us.
Yeah.
I will be directing the tournament. Josh will be assisting. It was originally scheduled for last fall. We were forced to move it to this spring.
And we have a date.
And we have a date, or dates, since it's 2 days.
Yep.
April 1 and 2 here in West Michigan. Sanctioned as a C tier. And we're excited to bring in a bunch of people from the area and maybe outside the area too.
Yeah, I hope so.
We're featuring all 3 courses, like I said. Day 1 will be a rotation between Windstrom and Leprechaun Hollows. And then day 2, everybody will be out at Shore Acres.
Yeah.
In just south of Holland.
Yeah. So it's nice because day 1 at Leprechaun Hollows, if you don't know, Leprechaun Hollows is a private course. I know you know.
Yeah.
It's a private course on your property, on your dad's property. Very tightly wooded. A lot of very precise shots. Not the longest course of the 3, but the highest par.
Yeah.
So very technical course. Then you get to Windstrom. Windstrom is all woods. Also technical, maybe a little more open than Leprechaun Hollows.
A tiny bit more forgiving, but not much.
Yep. And then finally we move out to Shore Acres on the dunes of Lake Michigan, which is the bigger course, the showcase course of the 3. A lot more open shots, a lot longer holes here and there. So yeah, that should be a great tournament. Three great courses, and
really a coming together of the lakeshore.
3 clubs.
So we're really excited about that. And we hope that anyone listening to this, go sign up. We'll toss a link in the description below.
So
sign up.
Yeah.
We'd love to see you out there. And before we forget, Tanglewood Winery is sponsoring the tournament.
Yeah, they are.
They've donated a nice chunk of change to fluff the payouts for you guys. So if you need some incentive to show up and play, if payouts are your thing, Tanglewood's helped us out. And we've also released our stamp that we'll show you right now. If you can see there, we'll toss a graphic up on the screen. But we've got all 3 clubs on there. Discraft discs. You've got a Z-Raptor. I've got an ESP Scorch in my hand, but there's several other molds in the mix as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these 2 that we have right now are pretty cool looking. The rest of them will be as well. I saw a blacked out Zone. I saw a blacked out Thrasher. Those are pretty cool. We didn't want to show you those because you might get too excited. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
come join us.
Go sign up.
Yeah, that'll be a fun weekend.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Hopefully the snow will melt by then.
No promises. All right, Tourney Talk.
So yeah, speaking of sponsorships, we talked about sponsorships last week.
Yep.
And you were really helpful in explaining how you go about acquiring sponsorships. And you actually just went through this process. I mean, you go through it several times a year, but you did it for this event.
Yep.
And you just talked about how it was Tanglewood that helped throw in some money to help fluff the payouts. So what does that mean, fluff the payouts? What do you, when you secure a sponsor, number one, what are some of the steps you use in the process of getting them on board? And then once you, let's just say you have check in hand, how are you allocating that money and what are you doing with that sponsor money?
Yeah, so when I approach the sponsors to begin with, once I've kind of communicated with them and built that relationship, and found out that, they are interested. Now it's just a matter of how interested are you? How much are you willing to invest in this event? I always come at them with a packages list. So I've got a nice pamphlet graphically laid out for them, just showing different monetary packages or different investment packages, whether, sometimes people are just donating plastic or items to be given away as part of a player pack or something like that, or as, a closest to the pin competition on a hole. So it's not always monetary, but like in this case for the West Coast Cup, Tanglewood Winery was a monetary investment into the West Coast Cup. So we come at them with a package deal saying, hey, you can sponsor a hole for X amount. You can also sponsor, for example, we didn't do this for the West Coast Cup, but you can sponsor our video coverage if we're hiring a video team. Like it can be you're the one presenting the video. And for this one, it was the title sponsorship. Do you want to be the presenting sponsor of this event? And that was the presentation along with the other packages. And Tanglewood was gracious enough to step in and say, we want to be the title sponsor of your event. We want to be all over this event. We're on the Lakeshore too. We touch the same market. And we want to help out. We want to get our name out there, but also attach our name to this event that you're putting on because we believe in your event. So like we talked about last week, it's kind of a mutual, we help you, you help us, and in turn we both grow.
And so with check in hand, then where does that money go? Is that going strictly to payouts, or is some of that going to player packs to make the player packs nicer? How do you allocate the money from that premier sponsor? So
we'll get into the ordering discs thing here momentarily. But the money from the sponsor is generally going to payouts. So the ordering discs, the funds that we use to order those discs, in our case, it was pooled between 3 different clubs. But on a single club basis, if it was just a smaller event, it would be from the club's pocket, I guess.
Basically, you're paying. You're fronting it. Yeah,
you're fronting the money for ordering the discs. The title sponsorship doesn't change that at all. The way we had it set up this year, it was bonus funds to fluff the payouts, like I said. So when we're ordering discs, we have the money set aside. We know how many discs we want. Then when Tanglewood Winery comes in and says, we want to be the title sponsor of your event, Now we have X number of dollars to tack on. In this case, it was $600 added cash. So now we can say $600 added on to whatever the 100% payout, 110% payout that we were already going to do for the amateurs. Because in this case, we were planning on only amateurs at the event originally. So now we take that number of payout money. We'll just call it, I don't know, call it $1,500 worth of payouts. It's way off. I don't actually know what it is.
Easy math. We'll use $1,500.
But for the sake of argument, $1,500 of payouts. Now suddenly Tanglewood steps in. Now we're at $2,100, like that. And that makes the players happy. I mean, $2,100 split between the top 40% versus $1,500 is significant.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by fluff the payouts is now we can give away more. So when we're ordering discs, now we have $600 more worth of discs to account for in the payouts that we're giving away.
Okay. So is that always the case with a sponsor? If they give cash to get their name anywhere on the event, is that always going to go to payouts? Or is there flexibility with that to put that money anywhere else?
It's really what you determine with the sponsor. In my case, I always like to put it to payouts because the sponsor's putting their name on the event. And I think in my case, the players then assume, yeah, you're putting this money into the event to help with payouts because they see the name on there. I mean, you always think to, the Pro Tour Championship every year. You had Grip 6, you had Barbasol this year.
Yep.
They put their name on it, and then the payout is a record payout every year. So that gets associated with them. So I think that's kind of the general consensus in people's minds that that's where the money's going. But I have seen it before where the sponsor steps in and says, hey, there's a greens fee. We're on a private course. There's a greens fee, $5 for each player. That's part of the registration fee. Hey, we're going to step in as the sponsor, knock that greens fee out for you. So you pay $5 less to play in the event, but we then get our name attached to the event somehow in some way as well. So
that's what I thought. I figured there were other things you could do.
There's multiple.
A payout is the expectation from the player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. So ordering discs, you've ordered discs before for events?
I have not.
You have not?
I've never done that.
All right. So
I can't wait to hear about it.
All right. So ordering discs, there's many different manufacturings out there. They all produce fine plastic. A lot of them have good tournament sponsorship packages. But what I would suggest is, I'm not going to promote a certain brand over another one per se, but all of them have good information on their websites, and they all have tournament packages on their websites. They call it tournament sponsorship. They're not just donating the discs to you, but they do a lot of times come in wholesale pricing-ish packages if you're buying enough, and a lot of the times they come with bonus items too, tiered wise based on how much you're spending. So, for example, this past league season at Leprechaun Hollows, we used dynamic discs, and they had a bonus structure based on I think it was every $10 or something you spent, you got $1 of bonus cash or somewhere along those lines. And we were able to get special full color DD, I can't remember what mold they were, but full color discs, and we were able to get 20 of them for every week of the season and give them away as CTPs every week. And I know players always appreciate CTPs, and when you can chalk up one every week because you already spent the money, and it's just kickback at that point. That's
free real estate.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So that's something you need to think about when you're ordering discs. Like, is there bonus cash that I can use, and how can I use it to help further the event? Not put it in our own pocket, but make the event better for the players, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
When you say bonus cash, what you mean is, like, if I spend $100, they'll give me $10 of in-store credit.
Yeah, basically.
That I'm also going to use for that same event.
Yep.
Does it have to be used on the same order?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's usually different different items, so it's not straight in-store credit. So if you had
specific,
if you ordered from Innova, for example, and they had this structure set up, which they don't right now. Innova, you might want to get it set up. And you had $10 to use, you can't just go into the factory store and say, hey, I want this disc. I want $10 off this disc.
Yeah.
You can get a banner for your event. You can get a stack of pencils. You can get these specific Innova discs. You can get a couple of minis. You can get a erasable scorecard.
And so with Dynamic, what that turned out to, because of all the large quantity of discs that you were ordering for player packs and other things throughout the year, you had a big order. So then you were given $600.
Yeah, a bigger amount
or
of
something
bonus cash. Yep.
that you could use on this specific mold or.
Yeah, and DD specifically had, I mean, the biggest items you could get with your bonus cash was, I can't remember if they were in stock when I put the order in, but you could get a basket. You get one of their nice baskets. You could get, they had a whole like 10 by 10 or 8 by 10 pop-up tent. So, I mean, nice items that you can purchase if you spend enough money with them, and they reward you accordingly. So that's something to look for when you're ordering your discs.
Yeah, for sure. So do your research and check a couple of different manufacturers. Don't always just go for the molds you like. See where you can get the most bang for your buck.
And then the most important part of ordering discs, obviously picking your plastic is self-explanatory. You pick what you pick. And some manufacturers have more options available than others, but the bottom line is you're kind of in charge of what you're picking. And if you're running a tournament, you should be knowledgeable enough to pick your own plastic. But the biggest part of ordering the disc, the most important part, is the time that you put it in. So a lot of these companies are busy. I mean, they're not tiny by any means. They're doing a lot of production for a lot of different people, including themselves. So a lot of them give you, I think it's 4 to 6 weeks is generally what they suggest. I always suggest 6 weeks or more. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if there's going to be an issue with your order. You don't know if your artwork's going to get bounced back to you for some reason because they had to tweak something. Everything along those lines. Minimum of 6 weeks. I always try and go 7 or 8 when I get my order in. So,
but give yourself a lot of time.
Yeah,
give yourself extra time.
Yeah, 2 months before your event, in my experience, you should be sending in your tournament order.
Okay.
So that's my number one suggestion for
good.
Tourney Talk today. If you got to take one thing away, get your order in ahead of time. They will appreciate you.
All right. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I did have, so I've never ordered discs myself because both of the boards that I'm on, I'm the young gun. I'm the greenback. But I did have artwork kicked back to me a few times. That Winnie Wednesday, I thought I did a good job in Photoshop, but not quite good enough. So,
but that's something
I did have that sent back.
Yeah, that's something you wouldn't know until they send it back to you. And if you were
imagine if you were right on the deadline.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
And now you just got yourself set back at least a week.
You're in big trouble. And if it's a big order with a lot of discs, they're not going to be real happy with you, and they might not help you out.
Yeah.
So.
And if you get your discs a week after the tournament, your players aren't going to be very happy with you.
Yeah, that's a bad situation.
Bad stuff.
Haven't run into that yet, and I hope I never do.
A lot of shipping costs.
Yeah, that's bad.
It is bad.
That's
never happened to me.
That's some lost revenue very quickly.
Popped into my head. Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up the episode today. Thanks for tuning in. We do want to drop a big tease for next week. We're excited for Vanessa Van Dyken to make a sponsorship announcement live on our show.
I'm excited. I can't wait. This is one we talked about a couple of weeks ago. We said her contract was up with Discraft.
Yep.
And next week we get to find out where she's going.
Yeah.
What's happening in
really
2023.
I am really excited. So if you have a question, I mean, we're not just going to...
Where is she right now?
She is out in San Diego, spending her winter in San Diego. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's Innova country.
It is.
So
that's what I was thinking.
We'll see where she goes with that.
Tune in next week.
We have no idea. We just know she's going to be joining us next week, and we were very specific with her when we asked her to join the show. Say, do not give us any spoilers. We want to be surprised with everybody that's watching. So,
tune in for that.
Absolutely, tune in for that. And we're not just going to bring her on she's going to tell us who she's going with in 2023 and then sign off. We'll hang out with her for 5-10 minutes and ask her some questions too. So if you guys have any questions for Vanessa, go ahead and toss it in the comments below. We would love to try and ask her one of your questions. If it fits the conversation, we'd love to get it in there.
Yeah.
So if you've got ideas for what we should ask Vanessa, please toss them in the comments below. Other than that, next week we're recapping what?
The South Florida Open.
Yep, A-tier down in Florida.
Yep. And we got some big names pulling through. Matty O will be there. Paul McBeth will be there. Girthy will be there again. Thomas Gilbert. Off the top of my head.
And then after that, we've got...
Then we've got a long break.
Yeah.
Very long break.
So we'll enjoy the South Florida Open recap next week. Other than that, on the show, we've got another round of Tourney Talk.
Yep.
We'll go into promotion, marketing stuff, hyping up your event to get people there. And then...
Disc of the month.
Yeah.
For real.
For real this time.
For real this time.
Last month it was the Mantis. This month is another surprise. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Jake.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate all you guys. And have a good week.
Yeah. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We'll see you next week. And until then, keep your head in the game.